My name is Dedov Evgeny. I am 6th grade student at Federal University at course of astronomy. My scientific work centers at stellar clusters and massive stars modeling.
I'm Kulish Maxim. I am a researcher at Federal University and teacher at private astronomy school Counter-Script.
My name Nikita Sheverev, and currently I work in field of creation of programs for oil refineries, and my specialty is actually chemistry, but I also really interested in studying astronomy, and thanks to Pavel Skripnichenko I've got the opportunity to take part in this project.
I would say that it is quite important for us because, judging from our current knowledges about the civilization itself, the impact of the civilization at the entire stellar system is quite low, and it is possible to detect this impact only for the finest instruments of humanity. Yeah. You see, only the best instruments we have nowadays are capable to detect this low impact of the life. And even if we don't find the life at some other planets or planetary system, these methods that we developed will help us to investigate other astronomical objects or astrochemical objects that have place in the universe. Because if we have better instruments, we might discover some features that require very high precision.
It's important because search of another life grants us principally new scientific knowledge about ourselves and about the world around us.
Okay, so there are several reasons for people to aiming to study this current issue. For example, lots of space missions, they are really important for humanity in case of development of technologies. For example, any kind of mission usually is connected with several problems. And the first one is to send a scientific object or a robot to study any kind of feature, and this requires some kind of rocket in order to send this object to the place where it will carry out some measurements. Then there is a problem that the experiment should be clear, and in order to be sure that all is okay, we need to prepare the instrument for studying by making sure that we will not put there any signs of life like microbes or other pollutants from the Earth. Because for studying the problems of searching for extraterrestrial life, it is important that we will not put any sign of pollutant on the instrument. Another problem is the creation of the installation itself, since the problem of measurement usually is quite unique. For example, there is a limitation there are some limitations for the installation to put in the rocket, since we need lots of fuel for heavy objects to put them into orbit. And the smaller the size of the measure of the instrument to measure some characteristics of objects, the better it is. But the problem of reducing the size is a really tough one. And all these issues actually pushes scientists to develop new technologies in order to stay within the limits that we obtained during sending the mission. And all these developments pushes further the developments of technologies for the whole humanity. And it is also important to notice here that lots of experiments that carry out NASA and other commissions is connected to problems of colonization. And it is important for them to prepare some kind of conditions for further astronauts to live there. And for example, this requires creation of atmosphere for them to breathe in, creation of conditions to grow up food there, and not to send them frequently some supplies. And all these problems lead us to creation of technologies to change the environment. For example, the Mars soil actually contains lots of peroxides, which are a big problem for growing plants, since they will contain poisonous chemicals, which is impossible to put into food, since it can have a negative impact on health and on well-being of astronauts. This way we obtain some kind of problems and missions in order to change the composition of soil and remove all pollutants from it. And it is actually important for the soil decontamination in Earth, since there are some issues of plant or of soil being polluted by oil and other types of pollutants. And in case of purifying of gases like air, it is important to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide on Earth. And the same problem is actually studied on Mars by putting the module MOXIE into installation, the rover Perseverance, that was actually created by scientists from MIT. And all these things are closely connected, and this provides us an opportunity to gain lots of technologies important for life on Earth.
You know, there are numerous projects at astrophysics and astrochemistry that might be useful for the life search. For example, it is the future missions of NASA and European Space Agency, such as Dragonfly, the program that starts the zone for the Titan, the satellite of the Saturn, or the JUICE program, that is the satellite, artificial satellite that will come to Jupiter in maybe 10 years, they will examine the satellites of the Jupiter, especially the icy ones, or some projects that were ended in past, such as Rosetta mission. It landed at comet of Churyumov-Gerasimenko and found the glycine, the amino acid that is quite important for life, and some more project at astrophysics and astrochemistry might occur, very useful for the life search.
I'm not keen in this field of science, but I think I found most interesting project like SETI at home, where everybody at the world can contribute to the science in searching of extraterrestrial life. I think it's very cool. First of all, we gain new way of finding life on other planets. It's from complexity of organic molecules that we find. And when we get strict criterion, that is molecule which can build up in significant amount only if there's life on this planet, and that's molecule what could appear randomly at some other physical process. And I think that's important. But what's also important that we gain new instruments, like I hope we get GST, James Space Webb Telescope, at this year, and when the James Webb Space Telescope will be finally working, will be finally studying the universe with incredible accuracy and deepness. We will get not only new ways to find extraterrestrial life, but new ways to find another interesting stuff in the universe, because life is great at all, but there's much more to see in the universe. I think so.
Okay, so actually I've mentioned it in my speech, and one of the most important, in my opinion personally, it is the roles of perseverance and curiosity, since they have lots of instruments to study both the soil composition and its structure, and the gas itself, I mean the atmosphere. These experiments reveals us some secrets of Martian soil and the way the composition or the composition of atmosphere changes on Mars. Can you repeat the question, please?
What projects in the field of astrophysics and astrochemistry are most important for the search for life?
Okay. Yeah, about searching the signs of life. Actually, the projects of perseverance and curiosity are able to study these problems, and there are some types of measurements that can reveal us some secrets of the planet. For example, perseverance, if I remember correctly, it has the instrument to study the soil for signs of organics. For this, the installation, I mean the rover Perseverance, can excavate some soil using its special instruments, then put it into the very small furans and heat it up. This actually leads to evaporation of some complex organics, which can be further studied by measuring with the gas analyzers, like mass spectrometers, yeah. And this is really interesting since it is rather hard to find any signs of life, that will look like a human, but it is more possible for humanity to find its signs like in forms of microbes or probably viruses, since there are lots of theories that show us the opportunity for them to appear, like the mechanochemistry that actually has shown the opportunity for creation of complex organics by collision of asteroids. Since the surface of interaction of two asteroids usually heats up quite significantly and creates additional pressure for creation of complex organics, and it is really interesting. Also, there are some examples of impact of sun, since some asteroids can pass quite closely to it, and the sun actually heats up the asteroids and creates the opportunity for complex organics to appear. So this way, I think we have some chances to find signs of life on Mars and other planets. Okay, so we need to discuss additional projects that we can find out. Okay, so yeah, there is an additional one which is really interesting, and it is the search of exoplanets. Actually, the way we can find out the appearance of any signs of life is making some efforts to find the planets that can contain liquid water and signs of atmosphere, which contain enough oxygen and other components important for us to live. And this way we gain additional problems actually, which reveal us options to develop new technologies, such as finding out the exoplanets by transition method. Yeah, the transition method, since there is a problem for instruments like observatories and the telescopes to find such planets on the big distance. It is much easier to see the black dots or the shadows of objects that passes through their near their stars, and this way more planets can be found out. What is really important for us to detect potential objects. Consequently, we need some special instruments to study the composition of those planets from a big distance, such as интерферометры, как это правильно?
Interferometers.
Как?
Interferometers.
Interferometers. Since they can study the rays reaching the Earth planet from a big distance, and which contains some data about the composition of atmosphere. Being more precise, Studying these rays, we can find out the color of atmosphere being... Нет, это, наверное, не стоит говорить. Я потому что про это мало что знаю.
Так, давай тогда с какого-то момента.
Okay.
Раз, два, три.
Okay, so for example, such as recent studies of... Кого изучали-то? Юпитер или чью атмосферу изучали-то, когда нашли этот фосфор содержащий? Венера. Okay, so...
Биосигнатура называется.
Как?
Биосигнатура.
Biosignature.
И там фосфин.
Phosphine. Okay, so such as recent study of Venus atmosphere, and actually the scientists has been able to reveal the signs of phosphine, which are the biosignature of for appearance of some signs of life, and all these technologies also important for studying objects on Earth too. For example, it is important for us to study the components of gases after recycling some things, in order to be sure that we will not evaporate some toxic pollutants. And the gas analyzers is a really important thing that can be developed by these projects. Especially because these instruments work in extreme conditions, such as work under impact of strong radiation from sun, since there is a lack of protection for these instruments being on the orbit of Earth.
I would say that the self-image of the humanity will change, because the humanity won't be the unique biological species that's present in the universe and have, you know, some kind of imagination, thoughts, self-esteem, and some other things.
If we found extraterrestrial life, it will be another strike on human egocentricity. Because we think we're the center of the world, we're the most coolest and reddest things in the universe. But if we found something like us, that will be very disappointing for our ego. And I think it's radically changed the way we look not only on the life itself, but on the other humans. Because when you have something that's also intelligent, but not like a human at all, you think, well, if that can be intelligent, what else can be intelligent? And that's
it really depends on the way what we will discover, since in case if it will be a civilization that have a very developed technologies, more developed than ours technologies, our future life closely connected to the way whether negotiations with the civilization will be successful, since in one case, in case of failure in negotiations, we can gain a kind of war with more developed civilization which can wipe out the humanity from Earth with doing no effort. But in other cases, we gain an opportunity to develop our own technologies by learning something new from them. But all these options seems to me to be very unlikely to happen. And there is another option for us to find signs of life, like some kind of microbes on Mars and other planets or objects. And probably this will not create a kind of resonance in society on the Earth, since it seems to be not so important for most people. But it is only my personal opinion.
That is a complex question. The human life will change drastically, I would say, because if we have some other biological species that have mind and are intelligent, we might organize some kind of trade or scientific exchange, or maybe some other activities that require a partner.
I don't think human life will change at basic stuff like homes or other stuff we do every day. But I think we will communicate with each other more profound and more accurate, maybe, because to communicate with another life, with another intelligent life, we must build a new way of communication, and that new way we can use in communicate with other people, and that's great, I think.
I think that it is quite possible for humanity to gain significant changes in the way they live, since studying of appearance of complex organics and some microbes can reveal some additional ways for obtaining of new materials for life, important for life of people in general, since it is hard to imagine life of any kind of an individual without, screens that have an opportunity to be flexible. But now it is quite a common technology. You can see any kind of screens on the visiting malls or big shops. But this material was revealed not so far away, from the today's days. And studying the appearance of microbes and complex organics, I think it is quite possible to gain new knowledge that will help us to improve our lives and life conditions.
I would say that some revolution in our minds, scientific lives, have occurred. You see, about 20 years ago, we have no idea about some processes that have place in the universe, such as dust origin in the universe or interstellar medium. Dust is quite important because the solid part of the interstellar medium is a key thing to form the planets on which we search for life, I would say. And even the planet itself, if I mean the exoplanet. So, The dust is quite important for the planet formation process, and even concerning the planets themselves. If we look at other planetary system, not solar system, they have been discovered in 1995, and it is quite a revolution. We have found the first exoplanet, and summarizing all of these facts, I would say that the life search is now not so crazy idea. And now we know how to form a planet, where to search for this life, and we know how in the universe we obtain some complex organic molecules and all other chemical species that are important for the life.
It's become popular. It's the perfect way to show for a big population about science, about scientific knowledge, and about space at all. And it's a great way to gather resources, gather money for your research, and to do it more profoundly. It's I can't say exact moment where the change has happened, but I think it was a gradual process, not by we are not interested in another life. Oh no, we are very interested in another life, in extraterrestrial life. It was very fast, but gradual rise of interest, and that's all I think. That's all I can say. New generation of people can talk with each other more freely and talk about these new themes, new way of thinking, when you think you are not the only intelligent life in the universe, but there's many more of it. And that's to cause this rise of interest.
Okay, so I think that it is quite a complex question, but for me personally, it seems that the most important role plays here the economical problems and aspects play the most important role, since with the appearance of opportunity for people to make trips into open space, with successes of companies like SpaceX, the Origin, I think that the interest of most entrepreneurs and businessmen and businesswomen have changed dramatically, and it is now more important for them to reveal options to produce and gain resources from open space. For example, there are lots of projects like gaining helium-3 from lunar regolith, which is really important for the field of producing energy with thermonuclear plants. Or, for example, producing rare earth. Okay, so another example for which is important for entrepreneurs to gain additional resources is producing metals and rare earth metals from asteroids, which is a quite interesting technology, which requires lots of investments and which is actually quite time-consuming in case of developments of new technologies. Yeah, it is also important to notice that the interest of scientists actually also has changed significantly since it's become more common and interest for them to study all aspects of being of a human being out of the field of gravitation force. For example, most countries study the way the lack of gravitation has an impact on human health while some astronauts being and carrying out their duties on International Space Station. So I think that this kind of work, I mean the work of crews on the International Space Station makes its work, it popularizes the work of astronauts and studying of space sciences. The most powerful impact for me is the photos of some astronauts from International Space Station, and especially the photos of people that were the first users of services of companies like the SpaceX and the Origin.
I would say that people who are novice in science, they must not be afraid. You know, I work with children, and the common problem for them is that they are afraid to make a mistake. It is very useful to make them because the experience we obtain, it is invaluable for our future researches. It is important to save the interest in ourselves, to make something new, even knowing that we might make some mistakes. And the other advice for these people is to prepare for some difficulties. You see, the science nowadays is very complex. We can't discuss physics itself or chemistry itself. We must always keep in mind that the natural sciences are bound together, and it is important for young scientists to know that the process they are investigating might have other impacts at very different science. And it is important to know as much physical or chemical or biological processes as we can.
When you begin your way in science, it's important not to focus on the science itself, but on the people, on the scientists, on the way of thinking in their life. So you are very lucky if you have this this example of scientists in real life. Where you can talk, you can see how they live, how they do their things. But if you're not so lucky, you can read about, I don't know, my favorite example is Richard Feynman. You can see them not as a scientist who not talk to people, who is very, very into the subject and not thinking about anyone else. In anything else. They are communicative, they are happy with their lives, they do what they can, and they're doing is successful not only in science but in all the parts of their lives. And I think that's important because science is the something that people do, not the something that is in vacuum that you can study. And the best way to get into science is from people, not from something like books of meta-analysis or books on theoretical physics. You talk to the people, you know what they happy, why they are happy in doing this, and you can build that way of thinking based on their way of thinking, and I think that's very important for newcomers in science.
So it seems to me that the most important for our viewers to stay curious and not to stop yourself from studying the things that seems to be really interesting for you. The astronomy is a great field for you to reveal your abilities and develop your skills and knowledge, since most of the studies are interdisciplinary and requires from you to study lots of things simultaneously. Also, this is a great way to make new friendships, especially with some people from other countries.